Hello, Motorada World fans. No, it is not 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in the UK because of the bright sunshine that you see. It is 8 o'clock at night, but the sun actually only goes down here at about 10 o'clock. The sun will start setting here in the UK, so it's quite of a mind effort at the moment trying to put the kids to bed, and they're like, "But mom, dad, it's still the day," and you're like, "No, it's not. It's nighttime. Shush and go to bed. It's 8 o'clock," but they just, I mean, it's bright sunshine outside. It really is a hard thing. So, hello and welcome once again to this live chat. We've got a very, very special live chat lined up. Of course, AJ Fenta. It's so weird, myself over in the UK and AJ Fenta over at the Isle of Man. So, doing a live chat from the UK, pretty much. And I'm also going to be joined by our TT pundit, the man who looks after all the Isle of Man TT stuff for us, has for many years now for Motorada World. Of course, the voice of choice, Mr. Greg Maloney. So I'm going to bring him in 2 seconds' time. We'll just have a quick chat with him, and then we'll bring the star of the show in, which is, of course, AJ Fenta. Hopefully, he's got a decent enough internet connection in the Isle of Man there. I don't know if it'll be bombarded by everyone at the TT at the moment. It's only a small, tiny little island, and it's just been overtaken by motorbikes and screaming fans and everything at the moment. Jacques, how are you, my man? Have a look there, Jacques. Where are you? Which I need to get out of the way. Look there, Jacques. Jacques knows what I'm talking about. Look there, Jacques. Looks good, eh? Looks fantastic there, Jacques. Thank you so much. Daniel Standua, I can never say that name, Daniel. Evening, Rob, and everyone else. Nicole Brett, as always, all the way from Cape Town. Just always in our live chats. Thanks so much, Nicole, for joining us. Al Camino, how's it, Rob and AJ? Martin Blake, hi, everyone. How's it, Rob? Mariska Hutchinson, another always. I hope we're going to see the whole Hutchinson family once again. The Samurai, all the way from Cape Town, our ZX10 Cup racer. Of course, Mabut doing 125-mile lap. Yeah, we're going to ask AJ Fenta what that must feel like, because I think I did, no lie, on my zero electric adventure bike that I use over here, through some of these beautiful, I felt like I was at the TT for a second, to be honest, with these beautiful country roads here close to where I stay. And I think I felt like I was doing 300 miles an hour, and I looked down and I was doing 85 miles an hour, and I thought I was a superhero. So yeah, that lap that AJ did at the TT, I don't want to even know how that must be. Aish, Rob, the boys are sleeping. They are writing exams. Mariska, that's good. Put them to bed. Exams, fresh, healthy, ready for the exams. So let's do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'll bring in my first guest, which we all know. As soon as you hear his voice and as soon as you see him, you'll know exactly who he is. Of course, it is the voice of choice, Mr. Greg Maloney. Greg, how are you doing?
Good evening, Rob. Good to have you, buddy. Oh, man, it's so cool to catch up after such a long time.
So we're doing this live chat, and you're the only one in South Africa.
That's, yeah. I was about to say, I heard you talking about the Wi-Fi on the island. Now, the best Wi-Fi you can get on the island is to climb on a bus.
I remember that when you're trying to do side of the track and you're trying to do posts, it's non-existent in that place.
Yeah, climb on the bus. Every single bus on the Isle of Man has got its own separate Wi-Fi. When I started doing live on the drive and live on the ride while I was there, everywhere I went to, other than maybe at the media center in the grandstand, you had some fantastic Wi-Fi there. But anywhere else on the island was horrible unless you climbed on a bus, and then you could do whatever you want to. There's no buffering whatsoever.
They saved all the signal for the buses at the TT. Greg, you, of course, as I said, you are a TT pundit, man. You've been following it. You've been doing your live podcasts and everything, which has been fantastic, keeping us all up to date. Give us a quick little highlights reel of the first week of the TT so far.
Yeah, Rob, it's been pretty exciting, I've got to say. From day one, starting on a Monday, which they haven't done for the last 22 years, was pretty insane. And of course, running in the day as opposed to running in the evening, just turned things around completely. I mean, in the very first night, we were looking at the 130 mile an hour mark broken by 4 riders. And those 4 riders have sort of seen through the week as the sort of favorites for every single one of the classes. Dunlop himself literally lit up the field in every single solo class, was top of the list for superbikes, top of the list for super stock, top of the list for super twins, top of the list for super sport, and was touted to be the man to beat. And literally so far, it's turning out that way. In the sidecars, it kind of started a bit differently because the Birchells, their usual sort of port of call and their route to the victory lane is slow and steady and taking it real easy. By the second night of practice for them, they were already on it and getting into the 119 mile an hour mark. So it was pretty impressive stuff to see them because they had a bit of pressure. Jevon Walmsley and Peter Founds all of a sudden found something special joining FHO and Fei Ho's team and really have become a threat to the front end of the sidecars. Unfortunately, the Crow brothers had a bit of an issue on the first night, so Ryan was down for a bit. Thank goodness he was okay, but as you saw, if you watched on Saturday, a little bit of issue there. They didn't quite get to the 3 laps completed, so I think he might be feeling the effects. Running around with absolutely no suspension whatsoever or very little suspension as a passenger on the back of a sidecar. I think he might have started to feel it big time by the end of lap 2, and that's when they decided, no, listen, enough's enough. We're not going to chance it. Something might happen and it'll become a lot worse. So I think they'll be okay for Wednesday. Possibly sort of fighting for a podium. So it's all to play for there. The really cool thing about, of course, what's happened in the week is seeing the magnificent weather. You and I were there in 2018. We were blessed with, I think, 1 night of rain. Other than that, it was absolutely ideal conditions, as we're seeing right now, which means records are going to be broken and have been literally every single session. We've had a Supersport record. We've had a 23rd TT win. It was a 22nd one on Saturday. It was a 23rd one yesterday. And then, of course, the lap times are just being demolished. The record for Superbikes was broken 3 times in the space of 6 laps, which is just insane. You don't have that anywhere else. And then, of course, the 120 mile an hour mark in a sidecar. I mean, who in their right mind, Rob, would you have ever thought of seeing a 600cc sidecar doing 120 mile an hour lap? And they reckon, chatting to Ben and Tom, there's a 121 coming by Wednesday. It's just insane, buddy.
It's ridiculous. And like you said, I think it's a combination of the perfect weather, a little bit of development, people being starved of it for, when COVID hit, and, the determination and to try and make up for the time lost is there. And we are seeing one of the best, certainly one of the fastest TTs we've ever in every single category. It's manic to see. I look at the likes of John McGuinness, even at the tender age of whatever he is, 55 or
51.
6 overall and doing still 131 mile an hour laps. It's incredible to see the speed of these guys. Mark Carretta must be 75 years old in the shade, that guy. I mean, he's
at least.
At least. He's been racing.
And he's on the fastest bike ever prepared for Isle of Man. He's
literally on a MotoGP bike.
Yeah, it's an RCV 213 or whatever it is, VV Valentino Rossi spec Repsol Honda. It's that good.
I don't think that's the bike to have it at TT, and we're going to get some great insight now from AJ, because we're going to ask him about his bike, the difference between Superbike and Super Stock. A lot of the guys we've seen in the past have taken their Super Stock bike and gone out in Superbike and posted faster lap times and. But it's been an incredible TT so far, and I think what's left to come, because I always get lost with this TT schedule. They have this week, and then I go, yeah, and then I get into it, and then it dies off, and then I go, well, what's happening now?
Yeah, so you got a rest day today, and they really need it. I mean, they literally had 7 days in a row of constant riding, and taking into account, Rob, and also just going back to sort of the first week and that chaos that was in the first week. The first week of riding, each night, the riders were getting between 7 and 9 laps in per night or per session. So it means that they're doing a lot more riding than they ever would have in the past. They would first of all battle with weather conditions, which always is a big concern. Looking at the weather for next week, it looks like it's exactly the same coming into Isle of Man for the final week of racing. But if that's the case, a lot of the teams are also playing around with, do we go out and do those 9 laps, or have we got our engines tuned to be on form for Saturday, and then maybe detune them slightly and then get them ready for the following Saturday in terms of Superbikes and the senior TT. 600 guys were worried about running those engines maybe, longer than what they expected. And is that going to be a factor? Are the chains going to break? Are there going to be some gearbox issues? Are there going to be electronical issues? All those guys are pushing it to the limit, and those bikes, particularly the front end, are tuned within an inch of their lives. So you got to take that into account as well, which I think a lot of the teams were concerned about. AJ particularly said it in his one interview. He said, we're not going to chance going out even for the warm-up because I've got X amount of time on the bike that I've kind of planned for and prepped for. And if that's the case, do I want to go and push that extra lap? Because if you look at it on the warm-up lap, McGuinness nearly crashed. So there's that risk that you take in going out on that warm-up lap. And of course, the warm-up lap was introduced only last year, and it's not a compulsory one, but a lot of the guys are using it. So that's another lap in on top of the 6 laps of racing that you're about to go and do at flat-out pace. So, I mean, you were talking about the 97-year-old John McGuinness. The bottom line there is, at 51 years of age, to run 6 laps at an average of 130 mile an hour, you know how fit that guy has got to be. I'm talking out of turn here because I'm only 2 years behind him. But 2 years behind, I can tell you right now, in doing the 24 hours that you and I were involved in, your body starts to take strain relatively quickly. And I mean, you're doing 360 kilometers of racing at 130 mile an hour average speed. It's just, the connotations that can go right and wrong are right up there. It's just insane.
It is madness, and that's why I think it makes this live interview that we're about to do with our very own SA TT star that much more exciting and important, because we've spoken to AJ before and he's been there before and he's done it, but never in the way that he's doing it now and attempting to do it now with South African built a bike, loading it in a container, Skynet, Worldwide Logistics, getting it to the Isle of Man. I was speaking to him the other day. He was sending me voice notes from Tesco, little things like he said Tesco's doing shopping, and then I sent him my Tesco's card, and I need to thank him later because I got like 800 points from that. So
that worked.
2 packets of free nappies now, but it's this whole thing. People think he's going there and he's got an assistant to clean his helmet, and he does. It's him, Dom, Dad, 1 or 2 others, and he was telling me he's literally the technical director, he's the rider, he's the this and that. So I think it's going to be great insight tonight, and thanks for joining me, Greg. And without further ado, I don't think he's quite on a bus getting the best signal, but we'll certainly
let's get him in.
And he needs to get on a bus so he can get the best signal. But ladies and gentlemen, live from the Isle of Man TT, the TT star that is Mr. AJ Fenta, South African star, completed his first 2 races of the weekend in the Supersport race and the RST Superbike race, 125 mile an hour lap. Ladies and gentlemen, AJ Fenta.
Hey guys, what's happening?
He's amazing. We love you, AJ.
It's good to see you. Can you move your arms for us? I mean, can you move your neck? Are you still in one piece? Yeah, there we go.
No, I'm good, guys. I'm good. We're feeling strong.
I thought you'd be lying, although you have been trained by Johnny, the Diablo cricket there, so I know you'll be the fittest man on the planet. AJ, thank you so much for taking out the time to do this. We really appreciate it. I know it's been a busy time for you. It was your day off. I hope you got to relax a little bit, but we really just want to pick your brain because we've been seeing all the posts. I think you and Dom have been doing a great job in keeping all the South African fans up to date with everything that's happening there. But we were talking about it just before. You've been to the TT before. And you've been a rider, and you've always been a very hands-on kind of rider. You're a technical kind of guy. You love that. But this TT, completely different. Just give us a little quick rundown of your first week at the TT, being in the Wilson Craig Supersport team, where you're very much just a rider, and then running your own setup with your own motorbike, picture in South Africa, taken over there.
Yeah, so Greg, it has been a bit of a crazy journey, to be honest, and quite an enjoyable one. If I have to be honest, when we got here last week, we've been trying to keep everybody as updated as possible. But it also gets a bit difficult because with us running our own setup now, we had to get the bikes. Skynet helped us, and I promise you, the easiest part of the whole trip was probably the part that Skynet had played, where the bikes were delivered to the paddock. In the crates, we arrived here, and the bikes were there. And then myself and I've got Mark McSkimming, who you guys know, that's got the fastest katana in Africa. He was over here with me, and my good friend Jim, who helped me, in all the British Championships. They met me here early last week, and we had to build camp. So we had to get the bikes offloaded, get the crates offloaded, build the pit, where we're staying. They've put us all the way down in quite far in the field where we park. We bumped into Jacques and Yolandi van Wijngaard, who, they've been very kind to give us somewhere to stay for the 2 weeks. And, we built our pit, got the bike and that prepped. We needed a fuel tank. That was a bit of a delay in when we arrived. Was the fuel tank arrived the day after the bike had left South Africa. So when we landed here, it was still a job that needed to be completed. We had to, get the tank fitted, mounted, make new brackets for it. So we spent quite a bit of time driving around to B&Q, and there's some friends on the island with bike shops, machining up spaces, refitting battery boxes just to adapt the bike, get all of that built. And then, we had the bike and that pretty much done. Then last week, they gave us two laps untimed practice, which was a bit of a joke amongst us, because every year that I've come across to the TT, I've ridden someone else's motorbike, and the first time I see that bike is when I get you, and you don't know where it's going, what it's doing, and your first run down Bray Hill is sort of your first experience of this motorbike. So now we've gone and we built a bike at home in my own workshop. My guys built it. We had Santon BMW, we had Saki. And it's Saki's birthday today, so happy birthday. Thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, well, happy birthday, bro.
Big 30. And we've all built this motorbike, and I still didn't ride it. The first time I rode it was when we got you. And it's just been a learning experience. You had to get all the technical briefings. So I've got rider's briefing, your rider sign on, get all your fuel, work your fuel budgets out, your fuel stops, your visor changes. You send the team up, they do a technical briefing, so they'll run through how pit lane works, what they expect of you. Every night, the bike's got to go through scrutineering. So let's say an hour or 2 hours before scrutineering opens, you send the bikes up there, and they give it a thorough inspection. And then once you've gone through scrutineering, they put the bike on warmers, and then you run down and you go fetch the next bike. So whether it's the 600 or the BM, then Dom and them came over. We landed the Monday, got the pit and that built. The Friday, Dom and Lurdre left Joburg, and there was a British Airways offices that had closed, and there was an issue, so they got delayed. So they had an 8-hour delay. So they missed their connecting flight to the Isle of Man. So they had to spend a night in London. Gareth Laverick came to the airport. He saved the day. They stayed at that Laverick's house. He opened his house to them. And then it also left me a bit high and dry because my leathers were in Dom's bag. So the first night's practice, I had to go and borrow a set of leathers from Michael Dunlop just so that I could get out. Then I borrowed a transponder from someone else. And, they were a bit loose as well around the crotch area, I can't tell you that.
Betty.
And we had to just beg and borrow to get everything together so that we can make the first 2 nights. And I think the good thing about the road racing side of things is everyone on the island will go out of their way to help you. Since we got you, anything we need, look, we've been working, because it's as you mentioned, I used to come here, you walk into the pit, you ride the motorbike, you do a debrief for the next hour, and then you sort of go home and do your thing. Where now it's making sure we've got tires, we've got rims, we're testing stuff, suspension, and remember this BMW that we brought. I've never ridden a BM yet, so we had to sort of take a guess, on the setup, on the gearing, on the chassis, and that first night you go down Bray Hill, I was riding a bike that we guessed. So it's a lot to take in, and I hadn't been around here. I think the last time I was just 2018, 2019. We had only ridden a little lightweight bike. Remember, I'd broken down on the 600. So I haven't really ridden 1,000 in 4 or 5 years around here. And I can tell you now, when that BMW pulls 5th gear, it starts to roll your eyeballs back a bit, So it takes a bit of getting used to. And my dad got over, I think 2 days later, and he could plug into the laptop. And it's just something special, we've got, like you mentioned, the South African guys around you. It's our own team, it's our own guys. It is work. I have to be honest with you, there's a lot of work in it, but it's been the most enjoyable thing you've ever seen. And everybody's playing their part. We went, the first night I did 118. And my best lap I'd ever done before was 122.1, I think. And that was sort of over a 2-week building period. So to get on the bike and just get going, the bike's been good. It hasn't missed a beat, touch wood. So that was good for me. Then we jumped on the Wilson Craig bike, and even them, the Wilson Craig boys have been only but good. They've welcomed our mechanics in the team. So we you're not walking in and treading on eggshells or anything like that. They literally open the doors and they say, look guys, whatever you need, if you want to check the bike, go through the bike. Your safety is our priority. And they've gone out of their way for me. So I've had we got quite a lot of practice in last week with the weather. The weather's been phenomenal. And then we had 2 races. We had the Super Sport race on, what's today? Saturday, I think we had the Super Sport race. Yeah. We did 4 laps, and then we had the big 6-lapper yesterday. And look, we're learning little things. The lap time, we came into the first pit stop and we lost a couple of places in the pit stop. And it's more because, where in South Africa do you do a pit stop? Where do you do a fuel change? And what was nice is there's a little youngster from home, Matthew Schultz, that I've been teaching. And we got Matt in pit lane. Matt did my visor change. And I was saying to Matt, you can change that visor 100 times before the start of the race. And the time you need to do it, it's like practicing starts, And it makes you mad, and you've just got to chill out. That when the team goes, the team works together. So the Superbike race yesterday, we practiced who can do the fastest wheel change. And at the time we needed the wheel change, Saki dropped the spacer, and we just have a laugh. It's one of them things. It's all part of the journey. So when we came in, I did my personal best, which was my goal was to do 125. And when I did 125, no one really cares about the wheel change, and no one cares about the visors and all that stuff. It's exactly. You've done 6 laps of 60 kilometers, and the bike's finished and it hasn't missed a beat. It's taken a bit of a hammering. I smashed the belly pan bottom of Bray Hill the 1 lap. And there was something else. I broke the tail light, the switch for your red light on the back, because it also smashed itself through. And the apologies get made afterwards, and then you just spend the next day fixing it, and you have another go.
Greg, your turn to ask the questions.
How's that, eh? Drop me in there. Yeah, exactly, Rob. That's what I'd say. Do a bit of commentary there with Rob. AJ, what I've seen so far is the team effort, like you've just spoken about, has been pretty spectacular. But the team efforts are being put in left, right, and centre. If you look at the way that the big boys are doing it all together, they've got the big budgets to play around with. But I can't tell you how impressive it is to see, the videos that come out here and there from your side, and particularly the ones that went out on Instagram with those pit stops that you guys were doing. I was doing live on the drive on the way back from Swartkops, from Brunch Run and Thunderbikes yesterday, holding my camera in the car while I was driving on the highway so that I could show what was happening in your race. And when you guys came through, I also, my other phone was on so I could see the live timing, and I saw you dropping by. And of course, unfortunately with TT Plus, they're not concentrating too much on the back markers. They're really sort of focused on the race at hand, which of course is how it works. But every now and again, there's a mention in there. And the cool thing is that the mentions that are coming your way are all positive, because they can see the valiant effort that's being put in by Lacquer Racing and by the Santon Automotorrad team. From my side, I wanted to find out. I saw, and I want you to clarify it. There's a possibility that you're going to jump on as well for Superstock.
Yeah, so I've qualified for Superstock. I'm going off with the start numbers came out just now. I'm going off at 33. So and something Fantastic. Else that I actually forgot about within our pit stop was we'd come in, and the second pit stop we did, the bike wouldn't start. I left ignition on, so the battery got flat, and we were trying to get this bike to fire. And I promise you, I don't even know who it was, whether it was my dad and Mark, and they were pushing me down pit lane, and it just wouldn't fire. And there's a line at the end of pit lane, and if you cross that line, your race is finished. The bike has to start before the line. And the whole of pit lane, the grandstand, everybody was just cheering, telling the guys to keep pushing. And I literally got to the line and that bike fired, and that also, it just gives you the vibe, do you know what I mean, of how involved everybody is around you, But so tomorrow we've got the Superstock race. I have moved up. Originally I was seeded to start at 43, but I had a steady practice week where we qualified, and they've moved me up 10 places to go for, I think I'm at 33 or 34 tomorrow. Fantastic. And then I'm going to do the one lap in the morning because we were sat just now, just going through some data, and there's a couple of things we've picked up on, like fuel consumption and some stuff with electronics. And my dad's been sat today just trying to build a new map, and we want to test it tomorrow. So we'll do the one lap before the race and then just come in, do a wheel change on it, get the bike back through technical control, prep it, and then we do the Superstock race.
So the second part of my question there, AJ, is with the Superstock, and a lot of guys were asking it on my live, and a lot of guys have actually been asking it throughout the week in various posts and comments that have been flying around with the posts we've been putting out. The difference between Superstock and Superbike. I know there's wheels and tires involved, but if I look at what you've built, you've basically built a Superstock bike that can qualify for Superbikes. Is that correct?
Yeah. So basically, what they've done, and I want to say the Superbike is a myth in the sense of modern day technology. Motorbikes make 200 horsepower, yes. And I can promise you now, 200 horsepower around here, well, for me, is more than enough. And I stand to correction in some of the facts here, but basically your Superbike race they work on like British Superbike rules and similar to World Superbike rules, where you run the bigger forks, you run a different swing arm, the lighter wheels, you can run a tuned engine. The FHO BMWs, there's a good friend of mine, Brian McCormack, I was having a chat with him yesterday, and those FHO BMWs are making 240 horsepower on the dyno.
Yeah.
Okay. And my BMW that I'm riding, and I can promise you it's more than enough. It's a standard BMW engine. We put in a rotor pipe on from Neil and the guys at a rotor back home, and my dad's done a bit of fueling on it, and that's it. And there's even places where my dad's saying to me, "Why are you rolling off?" And I'm saying, "Well, geez, like that, I can't see. It's just that fast." And I did 300.1 k's an hour yesterday on that BM, and that's a stock bike. So what the guys do the Superbike race, you can use the power if that makes sense, if you can get it done. So the Superbike race is your lighter wheels. Previous to this year, you used to run full slicks, okay? And then your Superstock race would be like what we would run back home, where you run a Superstock bike, standard engine, a little bit of suspension, cartridges, not a complete fork, not a complete swing arm, not your lightweight wheels, and no quick changing your axles and stuff to change a thing. And because of the tires, they've been having issues with tires. They've given us the go ahead that you can run slicks on anything. Okay, so the slick rules are out the way. But the main thing around it is the chassis, the electronics, and the power. Then your Superstocks would be like what we ride at home, and then at the end of the week you have what they call the senior race, and the senior race sort of goes back in history from your big Formula One. So anything goes. If you can bring what you have on the day, you bring to fight. And, some of the boys will bring out bigger stuff, more fancier tires that can only do 2 laps. So like for me, I've got a tire and my Michelin's are fantastic. Something else we laughed at, I went out the first night's practice. I'd done 10 laps around Red Star on a tire and I wasn't sure what it was going to do. So we left it in the bike to go and ride it around, and I did another 5 laps around the TT course on it. These guys are getting sticky rubber so with a harder middle so that it can work upright and run softer shoulders to generate the heat. And that's where all the small little bits start to come into play, where you fine tune.
So AJ, Stephen Kolgoxi was actually asking about how the Michelins are holding up. So you kind of answered that. My big question is, you touched upon it. You rocked up with a bike that you had no setup for. You didn't, you thumb suck gearing, you thumb suck this, you thumb suck that. Now, from track racing, you go out Red Star or the 2-3 corners, this bike feels cock, and you pull into pits 4Ks later. You pull out of the TT pit, and you go, "Oh, this thing feels cock." Do you have to wait 60 kilometers before you can come in and make a change? Or I actually know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer it. I know you, and I want you to take a picture. Open your leathers, and I know you've got a spanner kit in that leathers of yours. And while you're pinning it like this, and AJ Fenta is taking a screwdriver out, doing a couple of clicks.
You're not wrong.
The dad's got the longest USB cable in the history of the bike, so that he can monitor on his 12 laptop. But I mean, how does that work? So you go out and you go, "Shit, now I've got my gearing wrong. The front end feels cocked." How do you do the setup now?
So some of the stuff, Rob, you sort of, and you're gonna laugh. You got to take a guess. The first night I had a little bit of a small issue on the 600 that I wasn't happy about, and I pulled down. And as I pulled off, because where you've got to be careful is if you go out on your first bike and you break down and you can't get back to get on the second bike, you miss your night qualifying. You miss your session. And there was a small hiccup with the 600 as we went out the pits. So I went down Bray Hill, pulled over, pushed a couple of buttons, and it didn't want to clear. So I wasn't sure. Instead of trying to blow the bike up or damage the engine, I pulled off again and got to Quarter Bridge and I turned left. I stopped, leaned the bike against the wall, and the marshal actually came to me and he said to me, "Are you going to ride the bike back?" And when he opened the gate, I didn't even ask him if I could. I hit it down the main road. And I only know the main roads to get back to the grandstand. And I had a good laugh when I got back because I was wearing Michael Dunlop's leathers on a Wilson Craig motorbike. So if the cops came to the pit, I could just say it wasn't me.
Dunlop's going to get the fine.
and I found out afterwards, they give you, the organizers will give you, you've got, it's 2 hours after the session to use the road. But you have to obey the speed limit. You have to, you got to ride responsibly, and you can use it to get back to the pits. We've been testing a lot of electronics where same thing, you can, we'll make a sector of the track. So I'll go down Bray Hill, and let's say when I get to Ramsey, I'll maybe roll off where it's a bit slower, change the map, and I'll go and ride it again. Then we can sit and we can try. Chassis wise, unfortunately, it's a bit of Russian roulette that in the beginning. And I had 1 or 2 nights where the bike was an absolute animal to ride, but you've got to run the gauntlet. You're going to go out and you're going to go yes or no. And if it's no, you got to just hang on to it as much as you can, get it back, because you can't tour around here as well. So you're not going to ride it slowly and short shifted. You've got to, they watch your sector times, and you'll get a fine because it's a safety thing, because you could be touring slowly. Someone can come from behind you flat out and they can ride into the back of you. So it is that's what makes a TT though, is there's so many things happening around you that it's up to you. You've got to, the gearing, we went the longest gearing possible. We went back to the shorter gearing, and we prefer the longer gearing. So we try to go on the safer route the first night. And even with the Michelin side of things, we took the gamble. I did a bit of homework before I came over, and it turns out we're the only people on the island running Michelins. So the guys are running the Metzlers, and there's the odd guys running Dunlops. But we just opted to go for the Michelins because it's what we use at home. It's where our biggest support comes from. And, Michelin have been good to us. So when I did my homework, Davey Todd rode on the Michelins, and when he was the fastest newcomer that year, he was happy on them, And then you've got to think for yourself a little bit, We try to prep before we even got here. We made a list of everything we need to do that we can think of. We brace the belly pads, you double lock wire the exhaust springs. You make brackets and you rubber mount everything. So we did as much as we could before the time, made this with the wheelbase as long as possible, so that we weren't starting with nothing, And then from there, we've narrowed things down, And listen, that BMW is it's a piece of kit. It's really, really nice to ride.
Greg,
you certainly look comfortable on it, I've got to tell you. When we see the few shots that we've seen of you, and of course the still photographs that are out there, you certainly look like you're in your element and enjoying every aspect of it. But the cool thing is that what people are going to find here with Motor Rider World's interview this evening is those little insights and those little like the trick little maneuvers that you got to pull, like getting back on the road and using the roads around the circuit. Now, people don't realize that you have got access there. I mean, Davey is a prime example. Last year, he had to climb on a dirt bike and pillion ride back to the pits when he broke up at the top of the mountain on the 600. So there is access availability to the riders there. And Rob, you were mentioning, in fact, it's not like Red Star where you can come in, a minute and a half late or 2 minutes later. You've got to literally ride around for 25 minutes on a slower bike, keeping within the sector times, as AJ said, to ensure you can try and get that bike back again. And if there is an issue, then you might be stuck out there the whole time. There are a couple of riders that have also gone in. One of the sidecars, actually, the Birchells attempted something different when they got to Union Mills and pulled over, and then their van was there to bring them back to the pits to try something else. And then they tried it again and went and tried it again. So it's quite unique in terms of the way that you can work around problems there. And AJ, I think the coolest thing for me is what I've seen from your experience at TT. Before this, you're now putting into your team effort and it's kind of working well, because if you look at what happened on Sunday, your first couple of laps you were battling a little bit, you had some issues in the pits, you worked all around that, but when you got to get into that open and flying lap, that you got a chance to really open up that BM, things all went according to plan. And I was literally watching on the screen and watching on the timing monitor as you were getting to sort of Balak, when you were getting to Ramsey, when you were getting to Bungalow. It just got better and better and better. And you know, there's people that are watching here this evening on Rob's feed that were literally firing stuff at me the whole time, going, how's AJ doing? What's happening? What's happening? I kept saying, he's just getting better. He's just getting better. He dropped down. I think he dropped down at one point to about 37th place. And then it just went 35, 34, 33, 32, 31, into the 20s. When you're in the 20s, but the people are going mad. So, you know, the amount of support that you've got is not only on the island. There's a huge amount of support here in South Africa for you. And they're all on here tonight watching. So that's all, bud. It's an amazing effort you put in.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. It's been mental. And I can tell you, like, if I explain the way the race worked out for me was, I went out, you know, you have your things in the pits, but it also boils back down to who you have around you. And I came in for that last pit stop, and I'd stopped, and I had, my dad was in pit lane, he was the fire marshal, I had Jim doing the fuel, and Mark was doing the visors and that, and Jono, and everybody knows Jono, and me and Jono have done a lot of training together, we've done a lot of boxing together, and, you know, we go racing together, and I had him just opposite pit lane with a signboard. And we've also we've kept a good vibe in the paddock. You know, I have to tell you, we've all learned a lot more Afrikaans in the last week than we have in the last 10 years. You know, and Jono could write. I don't want to obviously say on social media some of the language that gets put on the board, but you know, the first thing I looked over at him and I say to him, "Am I up? Am I down? Am I catching? You know, where am I?" And it stuck in my head was, while they were doing their thing, I heard, I mean, your fuel stop takes the longest. So you want to try and get everything done within the time that you're putting fuel in. And we just finished the fuel, and I still heard the knocker gun go for the back wheel. So I thought, okay, there is a problem. Just sit tight and wait, you know. And I don't get wound up. It's I always revert back. It's a team effort, you know, because it's the same as me making a mistake. And when one person makes a mistake, the whole team makes a mistake, you know. And I looked at John, and he just said to me, he says, just calm down, string this last lap together, and you'll do 125. You know, and it sort of stuck in my head that because you need that kick, because you're riding for so long as well. Remember, you're doing 17, 18-minute laps, and you do 2 laps at a time. So if you don't see people on the road and you don't always get a pit board in certain areas, you drift a bit. So you find yourself in a bit of no man's land, and you don't know if you're going fast, if you're going slower, because you're trying so hard to, you know, keep that rhythm going. So and I looked at him and he said to me, listen, keep your head down, you'll do 125. And I pulled up the pits and flat out down Braille. Now you buzz, you energize, going, okay, let's make it happen. You get your lap in, and then you just tell yourself, think about that last lap and just keep it together. It's there. They watching the numbers, not you. You know, you watching where you're going and working by what they're telling you. So having the good people around you are the ones that move you in the direction you need to go. You know, you're not just going to come here on your own and do it. I can guarantee you.
Yes, so you would have won that race by miles if I was with you then. Here's a good question from Sven Grunner. Now, we all know Sven, proper track racer, and it's very good. How much softer do you run the suspension compared to a track-dedicated bike? And that's a good question, because you've obviously raced a BMW here in South Africa, I say, there in South Africa. Track setup, you go, pretty stiff in places. You want a bike that turns on a dime, and it's completely different with the Ironman TT. I suppose longer swing arm. You don't want a bike that's front end floaty, but you want a bike that's still nimble for some of the parts. How is the setup compared to your track dedicated BM that you run here, or you run back in South Africa?
So the thing with this place is, if off the bat, I can tell you now, we go a lot softer, and you've got to find a happy medium. So you're never going to have a perfect setup. The biggest thing here is obviously the speed. So you've got to get the bike to be stable at between, call it 250, 260, maybe 280. The bike's got to go in a straight line. But the thing with the track is there's a lot of bumpy sections as well. And if you can't keep the throttle open over the bumps, it makes you tired. So you've got to try and set it up that it's easy to ride, that it can absorb the bumps. But then you get across up to the mountain section where the mountain section, a lot of the short circuit guys, and you'll see Peter Hickman's very strong over the mountain because it's very open. You can see where you're going and you ride it like a short circuit. But the problem is, if you make it too hard over the mountain, it's phenomenal there. But then when you go under the trees, it becomes unrideable. So you've got to have that happy medium. But I mean, if I had to tell you in terms of what we've done from Red Star is, you run the bike, you want to run it as low as you can with obviously having enough ground clearance that you don't smack a hole through the sump. You know, you run it longer so that it doesn't wheelie so much. And you've got to get it almost like a road bike. You know, you run it as plush as you can, and then you sacrifice the change of direction on those bikes by running them low and long is they don't turn. You know, it's like trying to turn the Titanic. But you've got to hold on to it because you're also carrying another 30 kilos of fuel. You know, you've got a 24-litre fuel tank that you've got to carry in. Your first lap, you go out. You've got to clear your head knowing you've got brand new tires on. You've been off the warmers for about 3 or 4 minutes. You know, in a queue to pull down. So you've got semi-cold tires, brand new rubber that haven't been scrubbed in, new brakes, a full tank of fuel, flat out down Bray Hill. Then you've got to build, get it to, and then as the fuel load changes, the bike changes, you know. And the other thing is, if you do run too much, the suspension gets hot.
Yeah.
You know, so often by your second lap, your suspension's working completely different to how it was 2 laps previous. You know, so you've got to you got to find that happy medium and sort of find what works for you, and then start going from there.
So AJ, just in terms of quickly finishing off the setup, and Bradley Johnson now asks a question here. AJ, heard a lot of riders complaining of buffering. Did you also suffer from this at all? Now, I've noticed your BM, you're not running any kind of aero. You know, aero is the new thing in motorcycle racing these days with MotoGP wings, and, you know, Peter Hickman and them on the new M1000R, as you said, almost world superbike spec. I watched the video today of Peter Hickman taking us through a pit tour of the FHO BMW team. And I mean, those bikes are just, I mean, the swing arms and everything. But a lot of them are running aero, and that seems to be a big thing. And it kind of makes sense for a course like the TT, where, you know, downforce and helping with that stability, and that you've chosen, obviously, you know, we've seen a lot of people bolt on wings and that onto BMs like yours, the older generation bikes that don't come standard with wings. How is the buffering in that? And, you know, have you ever considered maybe throwing some wings on that to potentially help if there is this buffering? You know,
the wind is a nightmare. You try and run the biggest screen you can, and you got to try and get your head under the screen. So after 5 or 6 laps, your neck takes a beating. And I've used different helmets over the years as well. And I'll be honest with you, the HJC that I'm using now, my neck's fine. You know, I feel good. The aero side of things, I want to say yes, but I also want to say no. Where if I go back, I'm now doing 125 mile an hour. When 125 mile an hour was winning races, the guys weren't really using that aero, and I just didn't feel that I was at the level where it would make a difference. You know,
it's another thing to worry about, I suppose. It's another thing to set up and.
Yes, you know, and I can tell you the first couple, even now, I keep saying when I come in and I sit down with the guys, I say, you know, the bike's better than me. The hardest problem for me as a rider coming into the TT is adapting, getting used to the speeds, you've got to think at 300 k's an hour. And when I drove around in the car, the first thing I picked up is you forget how up and down the track is, you know. And so I'm sort of putting it all on me, going, I need to adapt, I need to change this, I need to change that, I need to change my riding style through here. The bike feels good. You know, this BMW we were chatting now is probably the most stable bike I've ridden around here. I'm actually starting to really enjoy some parts of the track because it rides the bumps better than what it's ridden in the past. So I think like the guys like Hickman and Dunlop and the boys that are looking for a 10th here and a 10th there, I think they've got 10 or 15 mechanics around them, like a MotoGP team, like a World Superbike team, developing every little thing you can do. You know, where we went for the road bike, the bike felt good, it's felt good for now. I don't feel I've hit the limit of what the bike can do, yet we're moving forward. And when I come in and I say, right guys, I've done 130 mile an hour on a thing, I need to find 2 tenths, we can probably add a wing or two, you know, and sort of look into that a bit more.
Other aspect there, Rob, as well, which AJ kind of touched on, is learning the circuit. And of course, as a newcomer or anybody that comes into the TT to watch it for the first time, you know, to try and get your head around the fact that you've got to learn a circuit that's over 60 kilometers long. AJ Milky was talking about it in the upfront stuff on No Room for Error, and also right in the very beginning stages of what TT Plus has been showing on the live stream. There's a couple of sections that are on the circuit that have had new tarmac put down, bumps taken away. Has that affected you in terms of spotting your break points and your turn-in points, etc., etc.? I know a couple of riders have mentioned that.
You know what? It hasn't really, because you know what's there. You know, one of the first things you try and do when you get here is go for a lap, jump in a car, have a drive around. And I've picked up on a couple of things that I didn't know were there that are there now. And in terms of markers for me, no. But I have been caught out in the past where, and when so like what I do during the day is, if I took some South African people, I didn't even know them, you know, they pop in, come say, how's it, have a bit of a catch up, and I'm going for a lap, they jump in the van and they can come for a free lap. You know, I take them for a lap because me having a chat and sort of teaching them and showing them also helps me think about what's coming, you know. So the more I'm blabbering to them, the more I'm actually learning myself and trying different things. And I always talk about there's a house where you come into Ramsey, into schoolhouse. It used to be called Pink. It was a pink house. And if you look on Milky's videos, you'll actually see it. He talks about the pink house on the right-hand side. And I remember when I came here in 2019, I came flat out into school. I sat up and the house was painted yellow. And I just started laughing in my head because I knew where the house was. So I could pick up that it was a different color, but it was, you know, it's a good laugh. But the places that they've resurfaced it just makes it better. You know, this island thrives on the TT. So anything they do any work or any form of maintenance they would do, you know, it's for the benefits of the TT, for the racing. So there's still some horribly bumpy places. But the places that they have resurfaced are cool. They're really, really good.
So AJ, you know, I've been watching the TT, I mean, for as long as I can remember, and I still don't have a clue on where this place goes. When you guys talk about Bellof, and I've been there. I mean, I went in 2018 with Greg. They took me around. I mean, I should know this place. I still haven't got a clue of what, when you talk about some bridge at Bellof and some bar by Greg's place, or I don't know where you're going. But the TT very much to me is, you know, it's like sex. The more you do it, the better you are at it, you know, and that's what it seems like to me. Now, you missed a couple of years of the TT. I mean, how detrimental is that when you on this TT project? You see the Dunlops and the McGinnis, they're there year in, year out, and they're still improving. Hickman's won it how many times, and he's still learning and still improving. You know, how detrimental was it, those years that you missed out? And as you said, going back and driving around going, geez, I don't remember it like this. I don't remember. You can watch as many videos as you want, but like you said, when you climb on that 200 horsepower beast, you know, it's a different game altogether.
Yeah, you know, Robert is, and we'll always fall behind. And I'll tell you, you fall behind in two areas. One, obviously coming here and jumping in the car and driving around, you remember the course. You know, you're forced to learn the course the first time you race here, you know, because you're going that fast that you have to, you know, my first year, I came here and I didn't have a clue. And, you know, we speak about it every now and then. If I had to teach someone the way I learned the course, it would be completely different to the way I would show them. Yes. You know, I sort of came here and tried to wing it a little bit, and you can't be doing that around here. Things like that, you know, it's a crazy place, and you can't appreciate how narrow it is, and you know, how ups and downs it is. So coming back now after like 3 or 4 years, even in the last 6 months, I've sat at home watching videos just so that I could be prepped, because I wasn't sure how much time I was going to get when I got here, having to run my own bike. And we jumped in the car, and the first thing you'll pick up on is how steep and up and down it is, and how blind it is. And one of the biggest things I've struggled with, as you know, building up, is a lot of these corners are blind. So I can tell you, go through here, but while you're riding is to judge your speed, how fast you can enter that corner. Now, you don't want to be braking, because the minute you touch a brake, you're slowing yourself down. You've got to try and pull yourself back out again. Now, on the big bike, you need to try and save fuel. So at the same time, you're riding the track and you're trying to push. You're also trying to be as smooth as you can on the throttle so that you're saving fuel. You know, otherwise you don't make 2 laps. And it's confidence. And the more you're riding around you're trying different things. You can't just attack the first 3 corners, because by the time you get to Ramsey, you actually forget you're still part of the same lap, and you're stringing that lap together. You know, so it does. And something we where I find our biggest thing that we fall behind is being so far away from Europe, or being so far away from the UK where top level racing is. It's the technology that they're using. What was nice is obviously we've made good contacts and we've met good people here that sort of come down and they have a chat, and we've had the guys here from BMW, and we had the guys sat with the laptop going through the data with my dad. And the first thing the guy came to me, he says, listen, your dad knows his stuff. And that stuff we've learned. We've had to learn ourselves and teach ourselves. So we've got a lot of compliments in the way we've gone about things. But like you say, when you start seeing the aero, when you start seeing other swing arms and other forks, and I was walking past one of the Honda teams, and I was chatting to the mechanics, and he was busy cutting the brake pads. And I still asked him why he's cutting slits in them, and he says it alleviates brake fade. And it's their job. It's a full-time job for these guys. They went to the Northwest a month ago, the Northwest 200 in Ireland, where it's a road race. Your bikes do 300 stupid. It gets a rider prepped. It gets you up to speed. You've got engines going. I was chatting to Michael Dunlop last night about his big bike, and it was making noises by lap 3. And he was worried because it was rattling itself, and he was hoping the thing would finish. So he sort of rolled off a bit, and not rolled off, but try to save it and get it to the end. But the first thing they do today is they pull that engine apart, they rebuild it, and they can fly stuff in from the mainland. Where if I broke a tailpiece the other day, and I had to phone Dom and get Dom to go and drive up the road and go and fetch the tailpiece, fetch this, chuck it in a bag. We try and make a plan, because we are a 2-hour flight from Heathrow, and then another 11-hour flight from Joburg. So you do fall behind a little bit, and it's one of them things where you got to just stay in contact and just stay on top of as much as you can, and learn and walk around the paddock, spend time with people. And we're all mechanically minded, so if you see something, take it in, write it down, and you try and improve on it, make notes, and move from there.
AJ, just quickly, please, and maybe this is an assignment for Dom, please, can someone video the next time a top BMW tech comes with his fancy laptop and sits next to Andre Fenta from the Vale? And that would just be
Rob, did you not see the first, I think it was the first night in the free practice, or it might have been in the first open qualifying. Andre Fenta was on a bike. There's a white helmet with red polka dots on that went out on the Isle of Man. I took a photo of it and I sent it through to AJ, and I said to him, listen, your chief technical advisor is going to go and get some footage and some technical data of his own.
He's trying to get sector points and all the waypoints for the longest.
I would love to see a top BMW tech sitting next to an Andre Fenta with his 12 laptops and his 14 cables, and I would love to see that. So you got to record that. A question here from Martin Blake. AJ, did you manage to land after the Baloff sign at Bridge? I'm not too sure what that means, but
tell Martin I'm still working on it, but I have to tell him he has built me the strongest subframe you've ever seen in your life. That Blake Industries subframe, just a quick 2-minute chat about that, was the bikes had left the Thursday morning in the crate, and they were already in customs at the airport, and this fuel tank arrived, and Uncle Ricky had stopped in at the shop, and I phoned Martin from there. Uncle Ricky's like, phone Martin and he'll make you a subframe as fast as you can. And we phoned Martin from there, literally got in the car, drove through to MTech to Martin. He made me a subframe while I waited. It took us about an hour and a half. And I put it back in the car, phoned customs, shot back to the airport, put it in the crate, fitted it to the bike, and shot it to the Isle of Man. So big ups to Martin. He saved the day. And an interesting thing is this place breaks subframes, from the bumps, the bottoming out. And every day we check that subframe, and we're looking for cracks. We're looking to see if it needs to be welded. That subframe's dynamite. So I need to get him a picture. I'll tell him I'm still scared of the BMW to jump it too high, but I'll get him a photo. Don't you worry.
So let me tell you, Martin, there's a proper advert for your subframes, TT proof. But AJ, can I tell you why those subframes are so strong? Because Martin takes his own DNA, his own blood, that boerewors biltong eating. I mean, the oak he drinks concrete for breakfast. He eats concrete. The oak is concrete. And he pours it into those subframes. So anyway, that's what I love about this project. We've got a bike from BMW Santon that, people forget, it wasn't this brand new latest spec BMW. It's this, previous generation BMW S1000R from a dealership in Sandton, with subframes built from Martin Blake, a fris old, South African proud Springbok, should have been rugby player guy from the South. Edenvale workshop, yourself, your dad on a dyno there, Mike McSkimming, the dodgiest hands.
From Springs.
I mean,
We've got, look, while you're on it, Rob, we've got people here from Springs, we've got people here from the West Rand, we've got people here from Yorkshire, and we Gerald and Daniela have gone out of their way and they followed that journey, and when I get back, you'll see the Beam production people. We're going to put that video together, of all the places we went building. And like you say, I got a subframe from Martin. The Neil from Passport gave us the exhausts. I lent a Motec off Nicole's bike. I had to lend a Motec ECU and a clock from Nicole van Aswegen and Damien. Even they helped us out. Then we needed spare brackets to mount the TT tank, the big 24-litre tank. So we phoned Monet at World of Carbon, and they had a crashed bike and they cut the ears off it so we could have it, so we could use it to mount the tank when we got here. So they got involved. I lent a fuel cap off one of the classic guys because the tank that we used is one of the World Endurance tanks, and they use that double quick filler. So a lot of guys saw that while we've got that massive fuel cap that I think it's rubbed away my top 5 ribs on my sternum just from hitting it every time. But we had to make an adapter plate to fit that fuel cap on. But that came off one of the classic bikes at home. So every little Mark Gilbert, we absolutely raped Mark Gilbert's bike. And, he lent me a back shock. He lent me front forks. He lent me the bladed hoses. I got Regina chains from Ryan. What else? Yes, see, everything we done. Keaton made us a sticker kit. Then he came to my house on the Sunday afternoon till 8 o'clock, stickering the bike, bubbled one of the stickers. And I still said to him, to be honest, we're going road racing. You're not going to see that bubble. And when Dom arrived, Keaton sent another sticker kit through, Then my leathers were a bit of a story, and they got sent here. Then Dom's bag got lost. So it's been a very, very, very good journey, but it's been mental. And everybody's just, like you say, it's literally, in Joburg, you make a plan, and we made a plan, and so far, thankfully, we're making it happen.
Rob, it's exactly what you said. I think it was about a year ago, just before you left, when AJ and yourself were on ESA with me, and one of the questions we asked was, why are Brad and Darren so good? Why is Stephen so good? Why is Sheridan so good? Why is AJ so good? It's because here in South Africa, we have to make a plan. You ride around problems that World Superbike riders, MotoGP riders would climb off a bike and go, I'm done, I can't ride this. Whereas our guys, and particularly this man alongside me here, will make that plan. And no matter what, we'll get onto the track to prove a point. And it's not to prove a point that I'm the best rider in South Africa, or I'm the only rider who can do this from South Africa. It's to prove the point that the South African way of racing and the South African way of riding motorcycles and racing motorcycles is one that is unmatched anywhere in the world.
I think you've put it on spot on there, Greg. It is. I loved the story behind this. That's why, we're all covering it as much as we possibly can. But AJ, there's another story to this that people also don't see. While you are doing all of this, you have this magnificent, behind every cool, strong, fast man is an even cooler, faster, stronger woman. And you've got one of those in our Dom. She's fantastic. Our Dominique is a machete. She really is. She's a mother. She's an almost to be wife. That took a long time. We won't get into that. That's a whole nother show.
Yes.
Every time.
I heard a rumor that there's a church on the Isle of Man, eh?
Yeah, with Pastor Calcutta and Michael Dunlop. That'll be great. But while this is all happening, Dom is sending me pictures and videos. She's looking after little AJ. She's supporting you. And you're still running Lacquer Racing from there. Yourself, Dom, your dad. It's amazing what you guys are doing. I don't think people honestly realize what you're doing. You've just given us, a percentage of what's happening there. So just massive hats off to you, Dom, your dad, Mike McSkimming, the whole team there. Louis Spannerberg, we'll sing happy birthday to him just now. And before I let you answer, just if Dom's listening, I need to order a set of pistons and rings for a PW50 Honda, and I need them here in the UK by tomorrow if possible. Boom.
I'll pass the message on. I'll pass the message. You can phone the guys at Skynet and see if they could overnight it.
Listen, actually, I found out something on Sunday when I was at Swartkoff for Thunderbikes and Brunch Run. And Rob, you'll appreciate this. Skynet Worldwide is actually the company owned by Michiel Campagna, who races in the Passion for Speed here every single year. So I don't know if you knew that, AJ. But I found that information out from Peter de Toy and from Tanya from Swartkops. He's actually the owner of that company, and of course the South African contingent is the sponsor that helped you get your bikes there. So the world of motorsport is such a tiny one. It's incredible. I mean, you and I have both sat in studio. We've both sat on the side of the track talking about that man in that magnificent Corvette of his, throwing that car around, spending huge money to be out here with various forms of cars that he's got in his collection, leaving them here in South Africa for Peter de Toy to look after until he comes back in the last weekend of January again, and now is part and parcel of this journey. It's just incredible.
Yeah, you're right. You are right, and it's a matter of, and I'll tell you, we see it as well. Is we get a lot of South African people that will come and chat to us here, living on the island. And I've met some guys from Cape Town that live in Canada. And I actually met a young lady who was here this morning. They walked past the pit and we were chatting. And she said to me, some friends of mine are good friends of yours. They raced with the Kyle Army, and you can sort of, our community is close enough that you can actually throw it out there and say, well, what is his name? I mean, there's probably 500 people that ride motorbikes at Kyle Army at track days that we've never heard of, and then she said Mark Bester, and he's a good friend of ours, Mark. Everybody knows Mark, he's a good guy. But it's such a small world that I don't want to say random person in a negative way, but someone's walking down the pits, they saw the South African flag, they heard us talking Afrikaans and having a laugh, and it's become quite a, it picks up, and you're just linking people to people to people. And if you need something, we've got some friends on the island here, Wendy and Leonard, that every year we come to the TT, they make us milk tart. We get milk tart, we get drive horse, they just come and they make you feel so welcome. Jacques and Yolandi, a lot of people haven't seen much of Jacques and Yolandi, but they'll remember them from Red Star Raceway. I mean, they've gone absolutely out of their way for us. Jacques, he arranged me a van to drive around, to run the team around. We needed flooring in the pit. He opened his garage. He literally has given us free reign, to make it happen. And that, if I had to tell you now what that helps us to make this journey happen, it's people like that people don't realize how much they're contributing on the quiet,
AJ, just to conclude this, because I can see you getting arm pump from holding your phone there. What is the realistic goal now for the rest of the TT? Like you said, there's super stock coming. There's obviously the main superbike race. You've hit 125 mile an hour. I'm sure you've set yourself targets. Was that a realistic target? And what is a realistic target, super sport wise, super stock wise, and superbike wise now for the rest of the TT?
So Rob, it's a difficult one, and it's I'll tell you why. I'll be honest with you, my goal coming, I was 125. I'd done 122, and I didn't think we would do 125 at the first superbike race. So it caught me off a little bit. And the problem with this place is, I always tell myself, you've got to slow it down, and you've got to be very treated with respect here. I didn't. So like, I pulled up on the grid yesterday and they've moved me up 10 places, and you get a little bit scared now, because I'm not used to moving up the field so quickly and at this level at a track like that, so you've got to calm yourself down a little bit. And I've done 125. I'm over the moon with 125, and if I go faster, I'm happy. I don't want to tell you I can do 130, because I don't. But I mean, those guys are immortal. It's mental the way these guys ride motorbikes.
This is the thing. Sorry, people look at it and go, but it's only 5 mile an hour, and it's fast. You know what I mean? But it's not just 5 mile an hour.
Well, this is the thing, and I know because you're obviously watching your time. You know, I've got a little clock on the bike, and I can watch a lap time, and I watch the sector times. And now, and these things I'm learning. I had some guys doing pit board for me, and I was up to 25th, and I'm thinking, geez, like I'm into the top 20, 25. And I remember coming here where I went off at 68. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the bikes, everything's just working, and it's a bike we built. It's we did our own thing. I then jumped on the 600, and I've done 118 on a 600. And I wanted to do, I've always said to Dom, 125 on a big bike, 120 on a 600, and I'm happy. You know, it's for me, that's when you learn, you understand how fast that really is. You can see why. And then the Wilson Craig guys, I mean, you can picture a pile of Afrikaans people and a pile of people from Ireland. You know, the language barrier is mental. And we've actually got a bet on. And the one youngster in the team said, if I can do 120 on the 600, he's going to get my AJ Fenta tattoo, you know, the sticker on the side of the screen. He's going to get a sticker on his ass. So I did 119.7, and I was starting to sweat. You know, so if I do 120, there's a good bit of banter going there. But I'm happy. 125 for me is happy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to idle around and go, okay, cool, I'm done, I can go home. But I'll just keep chipping away. You know, I'd like to repay the team for all the efforts they're putting in. You know, we spent the whole day today, fairings off, wheels out, shock out, spanner checking, chains. So as much as I don't want to say I'm the one that did the 125, we did the 125, and they haven't stopped, so I can't stop. You know, my dad sat going through data, and my dad I'll get home from the TT, and for the next 2 months, my dad's going to be telling me why you're rolling off at the end of Solby Straight, and just because he's analyzing the data, and the guys around us are so passionate that the more I can reward them, it's good for me. So my goal is to be safe. Come home safe. I've hit my target. I hit 125. Anything more than that, you know, is a big bonus. Like I said, I'll always give it my best when I ride. It's what we do. It's our life. We enjoy it. I still haven't hit the 120 on the 600. I've got one more chance in the 600 race. We've made some big changes. We pulled the shock out, and we're trying a couple of things. So I still believe there's more in me to do 120 on the 600. And with a big bike, every day is a new day. Finishing, you know, super stock race tomorrow is 3 laps, 3 solid. You know, we've got 2 of them. We've got the super bike, and I think the next challenge for us is to have the fastest pit stop. You know, that's where we all bet. And even me, I missed the pit lane limiter in the 600 race, and it nearly wheelied me in pit lane. Then the other one, the bike wouldn't start. So I can't even say that it was the team that slowed the pit stop. It was everybody, because I missed the start button. The bike didn't start. Sucky dropped the wheel spacer. You know what I mean? It's also, you got to enjoy it. You got to understand you're riding motorbikes is what we believe in, and it's what we enjoy doing. So enjoy it, you know?
Final thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, dude, I think you've touched on everything that people here tonight wanted to hear about, and see exactly, you know, what the ins and outs are from this magnificent effort that you put in. You mentioned the journey. I think it's more of an adventure, and I'm certainly looking forward to tomorrow. I can't wait to see what you're going to do. If you take into account Hickman went quicker on his super stock than he did on his superbike initially, maybe that's what's going to happen tomorrow. I just want you to stay safe, have the fun that you're having with the team, with the banter. Please send my love to Jo, because she sent me a message today saying, am I here? And I said, I can't deny or confirm yet, but there's a good possibility. We'll see what happens by the end of the week. Rob Portman's trying to make a plan, so we'll see what happens. I might get a motor rider private jet to get me into Douglas Airport by Saturday at least, and then we'll play around and see what happens. But yeah, from my side, but it's you know, I'm your biggest supporter. I have been for the last 7 years. I've been following you since your first outing, and I'm just blown away with what you've done, buddy. It's just incredible.
Thank you, Greg.
And AJ, I'm going to finish off by saying, I've always thought I was a tough guy. You know, I put tattoos on my body because I'm tough. I thought I was pretty fast. I thought I knew how to ride a motorbike, and I thought I could dig deep. But hearing your story and seeing what you guys do, I just feel like I feel insufficient. I just feel like a basic guy. But yeah, sentiments same as what Greg's just said. Just so tremendously proud. Knowing you from this little lighty that used to have that Rossi replica on a 50 racing with my brother.
The devil horns on.
Hang tight. I'll show you. There it is.
Is it up there?
There it is.
Yeah, there.
Right there. That way.
It's somewhere
that way. There it is. There it is. I have
So,
that Rossi replica.
yeah, it's incredible, incredible to see this journey, and it's incredible to see it's going. And it's I'm very proud of like you said, you and the entire team. Dom, your little boy being there with you, your dad being able to do it with you. I think that makes it even more special that your dad is your right hand man there. So everyone on the comments here is just going absolutely crazy for you. You've done a Brad Binder, and you've broken social media with what you've done. You've got the whole of South Africa and the whole world. We've got Brian Ritchie here from Germany. We've got a couple of guys from the UK. We've got people from all over the world just saying what a fantastic job it is. So AJ, keep it up. Stay safe. We'll definitely chat to you when you're back in South Africa and everything's calmed down. We'll get a rundown on how the rest of the TT went for you. But just keep doing what you're doing, man. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Lekker. Thank you very much, guys. And massive shout out. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Greg, for, if it's not you guys pushing the social media, I mean, everybody at home knows me and a cell phone. I'm an absolute nightmare. I battle with WhatsApps. I'm not a cell phone person, so if it's not for you guys doing the social media and putting it out there, and obviously Dom, the CEO, sending all the stuff and getting it sent to someone and making it happen, no one would know what we're doing, and nobody could share what we enjoying. It's this is something for everyone. Maybe, who knows, maybe we can get some younger kids in South Africa that want to come ride the TT. Maybe we set something up and you bring it on. I've set a thing for South Africans at the TT. Maybe someone wants to come and we can go faster, and I can be a part of that and help them go faster. Everybody, it's another form of motorcycle racing. And I mean, Rob, you started racing on little 50s, same as me, and it's all we know. We don't wake up tomorrow morning and be a lawyer or an attorney. It's motorbikes is what we've chosen, and it's the route we're going to go. So, thanks to the whole motorcycle, the South African racing family. Yeah,
listen, AJ, my son will definitely not be one of those that will be coming with you. I feel sorry for Dominic, because baby AJ is definitely going that way, and I don't think I know she doesn't want to believe it, but does she really have a choice?
It's getting difficult. It is getting difficult. She took him, and I know you guys want to go quick one. She took him the other night. They went to the top of Bray Hill to the traffic lights. We had some friends from home that were over, so she went down with him to go and watch. So he's not allowed on the grid in the holding area because he's too small. Yes. So they went to the traffic lights to go and watch, and she's got a video of him standing with the phone, busy taking videos of us coming past because he thinks it's the coolest thing ever. And Dom standing at the back of the garage full of anxiety. She can't watch, but AJ standing there videoing, going, "Where's my dad? Where's my dad? Easy next, easy next." And you come through there absolutely flat out in 6th gear. So yeah, I do think we have a bigger problem on our hands than me trying to do 125 is trying to see what he's going to do on the motorbike,
Yeah, he's going to crack the 140. The first oak in the history to crack a 140 is a baby AJ. But AJ, yeah, thanks again. Really appreciate it. Before we let you go, is Lourdre close to you?
He is. Hold on, wait. I'm gonna call him. So we were having a bra outside, because the weather's so lekker now. We lit the fire. Hold on, I'm gonna call him. Just hold on.
We need to sing happy birthday to the Spannerberg.
Just hold on. I'm gonna walk there. Just stay with me.
Rob, the cool part about that story as well is, if you remember when we were still with Interfile Superbikes, Lourdre was actually...
Ask him about
his wheel change.
Yeah, we're going to ask him that. But just while he's going to fetch him, he was one of the development riders that we put onto the Interfile Superbike on the 600, on the 600 Suzuki that we had. So nice story there as well, Rob. Seeing the progress of the young man, realizing that maybe his career in superbikes and riding bikes is no longer available to him, but jumping onto AJ's team and becoming an intricate part of it.
Yeah, and we've got his wife, Bianca. She sent a message earlier just saying how proud she is of... Hey, there he is!
Hey! What's up, Bree?
How are you guys doing? Strong?
Lekker and you, my buddy.
Very good, very good.
Also,
proud of this man.
No, luister, my seun. I'm a top technician, as you know. To not drop a spacer, you must hold it fast.
Please put the spacer in the right place, sir. Okay, the spacer in the right place, sir. Happy birthday, bro.
Yeah, great
Thank
job.
You, guys. Thank you.
Absolute great job you're doing, and we just want to sing happy birthday. So here goes. Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Fierce geluk, lieve Mikey.
Mikey.
I think that's the most horrible, horrendous rendition of Happy Birthday you've ever had in your life, buddy.
How do you sing
Yeah,
happy
no, I don't
birthday?
see you guys next year.
How do you sing Happy Birthday in Afrikaans? How do you do it again?
Fierce geluk, lieve Mikey.
There
Omdat
go.
jy verjaar,
Ja,
maak die Here jou seën.
Very.
En nog baie jare. I don't know what the rest of the word is, but that's like
Hey,
something like that, right?
80 blow.
That's it. That's the one. Sien nou sien jy Kossie Sikeleli Spannenberg.
Enjoy your birthday. Enjoy the experience. Thank you for looking after
Yeah.
Anna so well. And we'll chat to you all when you're back in South Africa. Safe travels, safe journey, and continue doing what you're doing. And we'll be supporting you all the way.
No, thanks, guys. Thank you guys as well.
Lekker guys.
Awesome job, dude.
Guys, thank you for everything. Have a good evening.
Cheers,
Thank you.
AJ.
Come have a coffee.
Okay, lekker. Ciao.
Cheers, AJ. Cheers. Yeah, Greg, how
Yeah.
awesome was that? How awesome was that? Very cool.
Yeah, dude, I got to say, the FOMO's there, I got to tell you, big time. But you know what? The time's going to come. We're going to be back there soon. I'm already working on plans for 2024. There's a lot of guys that have enjoyed what we've done here so far. I've got to say a massive thanks to Alaman and the media guys, to you as well for helping me out with the media accreditation to let me do what we've been doing. I just hope everybody that's been watching here tonight will jump on tomorrow. We're going to run through both the Super Stock and Super Twins. We're going to do Super Sports and Sidecars on Wednesday. Thursday's another rest day. We've got a second session of Super Twins and Super Stocks on Friday. And then, of course, whatever you're doing on Saturday. It works out perfectly because you can watch all 6 laps of the senior and then literally go straight into MotoGP's sprint race. So do yourselves a favor. Put whatever you're doing on Saturday aside. You do not want to miss that senior TT on Saturday. I've already chatted to Cam Donnell, and I was chatting to Steve Plater. They were sitting right next to me, as you know, last time I was there doing coverage for the BBC. And literally, you know, when Hickman went across the line and he broke the lap record, they were all like, "Oh my God, it's a lap record." And I said, "Yeah, but can you imagine what he would have done had he not been blocked by 2 riders in Governor's Bridge?" You know, that 136, maybe a 137 might have come in 2018 when we were there. I have no doubt about it. It's coming on Saturday.
You think so?
Yeah. There's something special. If you look at what Hickman did in that final lap and those final 2 laps, as he's just started to close. I mean, he broke a 10.5 second lead that Harrison had over him in the space of a lap and a half. And he wasn't giving it everything he could. He got stuck behind two slow riders, which they weren't expecting. They're going to be expecting it on Saturday. They're going to know that by the time they get into Glen Helen, when they get into the Union Mill section, there's possibilities of back markers that are going to be there. They're going to be there again. And they're going to know exactly how to handle that scenario. I mean, you look at the way he squeezed through there to get past on James Hillier. Dude, there was like millimeters, you know. So all of that he's going to be taking into account. And I mean, as you heard from AJ, you know, they come out on Saturday with guns blazing, special rubber, the other aero package on the bike, fired up to go and do whatever he needs to do. He certainly doesn't want to be second to Dunlop on Saturday. I can tell you that.
Well, Sven Grinner says, yeah, no ways. Michael Dunlop will do it before Hickman. I mean, that's become such an interesting battle because I'm seeing a Michael Dunlop looking fitter, healthier,
dude,
ever as he's taking it more seriously. And Peter Hickman on this World Superbike spec BMW, you know, even Harrison to me, his biggest handbrake is the Kawasaki machinery. I think if he was on a BMW or Honda as well, he would
100%.
Level back.
100%.
The 3 of them are pushing themselves to levels that, like you said, who knows where they can go.
Look, my opinion is I think Dean Harrison's starting at the wrong place.
Yes.
He needs to be further back.
Yes.
1 and 2 on the road is not the ideal place to be in. And he normally starts either 2, 3, or 5. That's his ideal position to start in. It's too close to the front. There's no one to target. Dunlop's got 5 guys in front of him to target. Hickman's got 9 guys in front of him to target. And it's a big target that you got in front of you. They're going to push it to the limit to catch those guys. And it's exactly why they go quicker and quicker and quicker. Whereas Dean Harrison, by the time he gets to, I mean, last year, by the time he got to Union Mills, he was past McGuinness. This time it's by the time he gets to Barragara or into Balak Bridge, and he's past it's gone on my head. Sorry, Davy Johnson. Sorry, went out of my head. So he's passing those guys too quickly, and then of course he's got free rein. So there's no bait on the end of that hook to try and bring him in and say, well, let me catch McGuinness, let me catch James Hillier, let me catch Davy Todd, let me catch. There's riders ahead that Peter Hickman is literally using to his advantage. By the time he gets to that place where he wants to be, that's when he opens up the wick. And of course, you saw what happened. I mean, he literally went almost lap record pace on the last flyer. The problem he had there was those two riders. It held him up slightly, as what happened in 2018 when he went into Governors. So he's going to have to be, I think you're going to probably see a lot more pit boards on Saturday as well, warning the riders of possibilities of back markers. If they don't do that, they'd be stupid. They'd be stupid not to. I mean, he's got one at Glen Helen. He's got one just after Balak Bridge. He's got one at the top in the coming out of the bungalow before they head down to Cregney. I mean, you literally see that board come out, and it's for him. Yes, so I would suggest that probably Feiho and the team will probably have a couple more guys out there, particularly on the last two laps, saying, listen, warning, rider up front. Yes. Time your run to get through so you're not hindered.
I think it's going to be interesting. As you said, I think it's going to be action-packed. This is probably one of the best, if not the best TT we've had. Certainly having AJ in it has made it more exciting for us. But just to everyone that's tuned in, a big thank you for tuning in, and make sure you stay connected and stay tuned to the Voice of Choice Facebook page, because that's, Greg, to be honest, that's where I've been watching all my updates and that before I even see them on YouTube, or when I sit on the couch eventually at 10 o'clock at night to go through them. But I watch your updates. That's why I call you my TT pundit, because since I've known you, every year you write a story for me, because you're more in tune with it than I am. There's no doubting. So
thank you, Rob.
Stay tuned to the Voice of Choice Facebook page. It does these kind of daily updates, and it really is insightful, because it's almost our South African. It's kind of like what SuperSport should be doing with you at the island. If we're being honest.
That's what we're hoping to do. The pundits out there, of course, have seen what we can do on an international level this year with Formula E and now with World Rallycross coming back to South Africa in November. So I've got a couple of doors that have opened up there. Hopefully those doors will be opening up on a similar vein with either with Greenlight or hopefully with TT Plus. I mean, the context there, as you know, Rob, if I was there, it would be a whole different story. It's so much easier to sort of walk across on the ferry and get across there from your side than to come from where we are, 11 hours away, and then another 2-hour flight. Take nothing away from the effort that I tried to get. I mean, we were literally this close to making it out there. But if I tell you on Sunday when I left the circuit and said I was heading to ORT, there's a lot of people out there that, as I said, I cannot confirm or deny that I won't be there by the end of the week. Watch the space.
Well, hopefully it makes it happen. If you need a place to stay in the UK, I've got a room upstairs here. You'll have to cuddle a Nova and a tray, because they like to sleep anything but in their own beds. So that's
all good.
But we'll definitely make it. Hats off to AJ as well. He offered me to come across, and I can sleep in this house that they've rented. And it's just too early days for me with the family moving over, and the time that we spent apart, it just didn't kind of align. But certainly next year, hopefully myself and you, along with AJ, Dom, and a bunch of other South Africans will be there. And if you think we're doing it properly now. Yeah,
Rob, there's a massive contingent as well. Sorry, just final thought from our side. There's a massive contingent of South Africans that are on the island, all out of motorsport fraternity as well. Heinz Bezay from Dunlop Tires, I know that they're there with George Schmalberger from the Shield Racing team. Unfortunately, Georgie's fallen ill with I think the same thing that
Connor Cummins.
Connor Cummins has got. There's a bit of a bug going around, so he's been man down for the last couple of days. But I spoke to him this morning; he's feeling a lot better, and hopefully we'll be in good spirits for tomorrow's racing. And then, of course, you've also got the likes of one of the fastest Mercedes-Benz drivers in South Africa and the world, in Tuka Mechanikos. He's there with a whole contingent of South Africans too. So there's huge support from the South African fans of motorsport, whether they're two-wheeled or four-wheeled. And Tuka actually sent me a message yesterday going, he cannot believe what this event is like. He's never been to it before. Yes. And I said to him, I told you, I said, if you get there and you experience what Rob and I experienced in 2018, you will never want to miss it.
Yeah, it is. It literally is like that. So you've got Dustin Delaporte also saying he has a spot in the UK for you. Bradley Johnson, awesome electric, Rob. I know I wanted to take my Zero and race the electric TT. But they didn't have it. But yeah, Greg, let's keep up the good work. Keep it coming. And yeah, hopefully
next
year we'll be doing what you're doing. And we'll be putting it on steroids and doing it a lot more up close and personal. But thanks for joining me, my bud. It was nice catching up with you.
Awesome, dude.
We'll definitely do a follow-up after the TT. We'll do a full roundup. I'm going to ask you to write a story for the digital magazine, as you always do, that we can put a nice thing together there. And
definitely.
To send it across to whoever and say, take us with. So again, thank you everyone for joining. And Greg, tell Michelle,
thanks, guys.
Give Michelle a big kiss for me and the family that side, and we'll chat soon.
Take care then. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, guys.